The flame gouging Immolator is one of the most core images of the Sisters of Battle for me, which is of course why I spent 10 years between multiple house moves sitting on an unassembled one. This small plastic canopy piece was crucial. While assembling, I used blue stuff to make a mould and copy of the canopy. I'd then be able to use this in a cheap eBay secondhand Immolator that I had secured. These Immolators sometimes go for relatively affordable prices because often they're missing this canopy piece. Although the lore is that these are armour glass, a heavy-duty transparent material used for void chip viewing ports and not typically bright green like you get from this green stuff, I felt like painted up it would look the part. I plan to use a green stuff mould version for both Immolators, letting me keep the real one to make for future moulds if I see more cheap second-hand Immolators missing this piece. I used some skulls and candles to zhuzh up the vehicles, the two Immolators, a modern Sisters of Battle Rhino, and another cheap eBay find. Modern Immolators have front-mounted heavy bolters as well, so I used some of the arch-shaped relics in the Immolator kit to cut out a mounting, and then the heavy bolters from the Immolator turret itself. Next up, I started the painting. I'm still relatively new to airbrushing, but it's clearly the superior way to paint vehicles. It being so long since I've painted a tank, mainly focusing on painting infantry over the years, I looked into techniques about painting Panzer-grade German tanks for advice on tackling this kind of dark grey off black. I didn't follow any one source, but in general I found Night Shift's videos to be pretty excellent. I proceeded with chipping a light grey colour, focusing on edges expected to have a lot of paint scuffed. Over the transfers I chipped the light colour, but then also went back in with the smoke black dark grey where the painted symbol might have worn off a bit. Next I used a brown for more significant areas of wear and tear. For the gunner dome, I first tried a stained glass pattern, like it's pretty popular with the new version of the Immolator, but I just couldn't get it looking good. I think this is just more down to my painting skills than anything else. So I thought about churches and domes and found inspiration on the green patina copper domes that's notable on all the cathedrals that I'm most familiar with. These are usually pure green after having such significant oxidization, which visually isn't the most interesting when I'm thinking about the tank. So I went more with a weathered bronze approach, greens and turquoises building up in the recesses. I'd recommend Cult of Pain's video on Verdigris to see more impressive and thorough demonstration of this. Next I moved on to experimenting with oil paints over a gloss varnish. Then the next step was directional brushing to make distinct streak patterns in a manner you'd expect water, dirt, mud, oil and grime to drip. On one of the Rhinos, I tried some oil dot filtering with black, brown, and turquoise paints. I think it produced some pretty interesting results. I'm not sure if it's something I want to continue doing from all my vehicles. But the turquoise oil paints were a really useful tool to help age up the bronze colours across all the vehicles. After everything had dried up, I finished up with a matte varnish. The gloss varnish was really useful when using the oil paints and making sure everything really ran into those recesses, but it's just far too shiny for my liking as a finish. These were the first vehicles I had done in a really long time, and I'm keen to keep practicing these techniques. Hopefully I can tackle the new Immolator soon, but in the meantime, these ones seem ready to burn and purge.